In the world of gig work, you interact with a large amount of people, everything from customers to restaurant workers to valet drivers, and how we treat people can vary depending on how you see them. We're going to look at 3 different ways that gig workers tend to treat the people that they interact with. What is the best way? And stay tuned to the end because we're going to give you some best practices and ideas of how to step up your game to treat people better in this gig economy. The first way that people often are treated by gig workers is that as objects. In other words, you are an object for me to use to get whatever end result I want. So I will push to the head of the line. I will use my interactions with you solely to get what I want. And I might manipulate, I might lie, I might fudge the truth. Now, I want to be clear here. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't look for opportunities to be more efficient. But when your opportunities for efficiency just get into the idea where you're merely using someone for what they benefit you and you're not looking out for their own well-being, that's where we tend to get in trouble. So what I want you to consider is when you're interacting with people, are you interacting in a way that says, I value you even if there's no benefit to me? If you can't answer yes to that question, then you might be using someone that you interact with as an object. Now, do we want to make money? Of course we do. We're looking to make money. That's why we're delivering for these gig apps. But if your whole interaction with a customer is solely for the monetary transaction and you're not taking opportunities to reach out to them, to love on them, to bless them in little ways, to look for ways that you can encourage them or compliment them, different things, then you might be just viewing them as an object. The second way, and this is maybe the most common way that I see people negatively treated by gig workers, is they view people as obstacles. In other words, they simply see people as getting in the way of getting their job done. So when they get to a restaurant and the food is not ready, they see those restaurant workers as obstacles of getting the food delivered. Or if something happens to be out of stock, they see that worker who didn't stock the shelves as an obstacle that is getting in their way. Or maybe even just when you're shopping in a store, right? I was just in Costco this morning. And when you shop in Costco, you often can see gig workers who are driving carts recklessly. Now, I understand we want to get the job done quickly. We want to do the best for our customers, but that shouldn't involve rudeness to other people who are shopping those stores and shouldn't involve rudeness to the workers who work there. Oftentimes I find that when I view someone as an obstacle when I'm doing gig delivery work, it's because there's something that's out of whack within my own life. And there's probably something that's broken inside of me on that day that I need to fix, that all of a sudden all these other things are problems. Everyone's out to get me, when that's really not the case. The last way that we can look at people, and the way I want to encourage you today, is that of opportunities. There are opportunities in gig work to interact with people. Now, I want to give you some tips and some practical tips. Before I do that, if you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that so much. Okay, but when we look at people as opportunities, there's multiple ways that we can do this. The first way is this, that I mentioned before, is look for ways to encourage people who are down and out. I've often found that the people that I interact with on these gig apps are often using these apps as some form of self-medication. Now that might sound weird, but the reality is a lot of times people revert to these apps because they have had a bad day or because something bad has happened. Just this weekend, I was delivering to multiple people for Instacart medicine for sick kids, for people who were sick with a variety of different things, right? So they're using those not just literally as self-medication, but in that case, to get their actual medication. They didn't feel well or they weren't able to leave their kids to go get the medicine that they needed. And so you have those opportunities, and so a simple thing that I'll say, an example that you can do that just shows that you value people individually is, hey, I hope everybody feels better soon. Some simple phrase like that is such a game changer when you are working with these apps, because all of a sudden it's not just, oh, this is an object, I get to make money because they're sick, or this is an obstacle, this is a really low order and it's just getting in my way until I can get the next big order. You have an opportunity to interact with someone, to bless them, to encourage them in some way or another. I want to give you another example from this weekend of a way that I had an obstacle potentially that I realized was an opportunity. I went to a restaurant. It was a Miller's Ale House, which is like a sports bar that we have around here. And the customer reached out and said, hey, could you get some extra sauces? And when I got to the restaurant, I told them, I said, hey, they're looking for some extra sauces. And they said, well, a lot of customers kind of do this because they know we charge for those sauces. And I said, okay, well, how much is it? It was a high paying order. So I was just kind of thinking, and I was like, okay, if it's going to be $1 or something, maybe I can do that. And they said, well, let me go check, because we've never actually had someone ask how much it would be to add it on, as a DoorDash driver. And so they went to the back and they asked, and it was like $1.50 for the 2 extra sauces they want. So basically 75 cents a sauce. And I thought about it and I said, okay, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to both educate the customer and say, hey, this is a charge normally, but also bless them. And so I said, sure, let me do it. And I let the customer know this was an additional charge, but I got it for you and wanted to take care of you. I totally understand what it's like to not have enough sauces when you're dealing with, like, I think this was some sort of wings or whatever. And so I gave it to them. I didn't ask for reimbursement, didn't do any of those things. Now, sure enough, they were awesome and they reimbursed above and beyond. They actually increased the tip by about $4 after I dropped it off. So it had the bonus of I received an extra tip just by taking one extra little step that I think a lot of delivery drivers wouldn't do. And by simply saying, hey, this is an opportunity to bless someone. Maybe they were trying to get around the paying for it, but probably not. If they were willing to tip an extra $4.50, that probably wasn't the case here. But maybe they just didn't know about the policy. And so I was able to complete that delivery for them. They got exactly what they wanted. I got what I'm going for, right? I increased my tip, which is great for me. The restaurant got an extra sale, so everybody walks away happy. A lot of people think that in this gig world, it's a zero-sum game. You can't win unless someone else is losing. And I'm going to tell you that most of my interactions say just the opposite, is that the more you help everyone win, the more you're going to win as well. And so if you think that helping a customer get the best order and get the thing that they want is a hindrance to you, I'm going to argue just the opposite. Like I've said before, many times my best tip increases come when there is a problem with the order or when something isn't going right. When everything goes right, the restaurant has the order ready, there's no wait, I deliver it, the customer gets exactly what they want, rarely do I get increased tips there. The times when I get increased tips, for sure, a lot of the times is when there is a wait and I talk to them and I say, hey, there's a wait, I'm waiting for you here, it's no issue, I'll let you know when I'm on the way. And by keeping them in the loop, then a lot of times they really appreciate the communication, that I'm not just being lazy or late to get the order. I am genuinely providing that service of waiting for them. And so don't be afraid of something going wrong in an order being a limitation for you. A couple of different ways that I think that you can look at people as opportunities is this. Hold doors. I know this is such a simple thing that maybe is antiquated in your world or in the world of people around you. But I just find holding doors, especially when I notice it's another gig worker who has their hands full, it's just such a nice, pleasant way of doing things. By holding doors for people, the extra 3 seconds that you have to wait to hold the door is not going to limit the total number of orders you're going to be able to complete in a day. So that's an opportunity that you have to bless maybe another delivery driver who has their hands full. Another thing that I just mentioned is communicate. Communicate with customers, especially once things go wrong. Now, is it possible to over-communicate on these apps? Absolutely it is. But if you were doing Instacart, I don't see anything wrong under most circumstances of sending out a little greeting message, sending little updates about, hey, this was it, or this is a buy one, get one free, you only ordered one, do you want me to get two? Occasionally they're going to say no. Occasionally you're going to get the vibe right away that they don't want to be communicated with anymore, and then you can just be done with it. But the vast majority of the time, I find when I see or discover a missing savings opportunity for a customer, they are more than appreciative that I am able to work that out for them. The last thing, and I made a video on this last week, this was our live hangout, we talked about just apologizing for things when they don't go right. And even if it's not your fault, we talked about this concept that apologizing is not just an admission that you did something wrong. In fact, many times in the gig economy, it's not that at all. It is simply sympathizing, or if you've had the same experience yourself, empathizing with a customer. So with that customer that I got the extra sauces, I said to them, hey, I totally understand what it's like to not have enough sauce for the wings because I've experienced that problem before. And so by communicating, sympathizing with a customer, saying, hey, I'm sorry that this didn't go right. I'm sorry for the long wait. I'm sorry the store was out of those things. When you do those things, you open up this great opportunity to say, you're not an obstacle and you're not an object, you're an opportunity. You're an opportunity to bless one. And one bonus tip that I really want to add is this: really try to pay attention to when people are having a bad day. You don't have to be a psychology expert to tell sometimes that you're delivering to someone who's been crying or who's just down and out. And sometimes they're not going to want to show anything, and I get that. But I have found some of the best opportunities that I've had is to bless people and just say, hey, I hope you're feeling better. Sorry to hear you've had a bad day. I hope this can cheer you up. And every once in a while, you'll come across the customer where you say, hey, how's everything going? They'll say, not good. And then you can just follow up with a genuine, hey, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that it's been a rough day. And you have that opportunity to bless them. One other bonus tip that I will add is this: always be looking for opportunities for people that you can collaborate with in the future. So maybe it's not something that will benefit you and them now, but maybe there is some sort of future business opportunity that you can have with someone. Maybe someone can show you something that you didn't know. I've learned different things, especially when I just started, by asking questions from other gig workers who were pleasant enough to spend time to show me. It's how I first learned to do some Instacart things for shopping for 3 batches, is I just asked a shopper, hey, what is your setup? And he was willing to take 10 seconds of his time to show the basics, and that has helped me. And that's something that I've wanted to do to help you as well. Comment below any other ways that you see opportunities to make with people, and what's one change that you want to make.